because Mark Zuckerberg, I don't even think Mark, again, is a real boy. I think he's so desperate to be a real boy and have friends. But Mark Zuckerberg build building or builded, if I could speak today, an AI CEO to help him run Meta. Yeah. So you know how we were just talking about one dystopian nightmare. Now we get to move on to one set in the tech industry. So right now, Meta is in the middle of like a massive reconstructuring phase, right? They are flattening teams. They're ending, I think, part of like the Meta, metaverse thing where they spent is like $80 million on, or whatever the hell, 80 billion probably, knowing Mark Zuckerberg, in order to be able to create this virtual reality AI based world that looked like it was made from the Nintendo Mii's when the Nintendo Wii dropped, 20 fucking years ago. But right now, Mark Zuckerberg, the guy who has spent his entire public life trying to convince not only Congress, but the American public that he's not a robot, that he's not actually Data from Star Trek, is now creating a robot to do his job, which seems, I mean, like, I'm not going to sit there and say that it doesn't kind of make sense, right? If you're pushing the idea that AI robots, AI agents, whatever, have the ability to go on in and then, do all of these tasks, it almost seems like that would be something that they would eventually do. Like Jensen Huang was talking about this the other day with NVIDIA, and he's saying, like, I imagine a world, and I'm maybe paraphrasing this, where like everyone has like 100 agents working for them. And I don't even know what the fuck that would look like. And I like AI, and I don't even know what the fuck that would look like. But for me, I'm like, all right, so you're building like an AI version of yourself, a robot version of yourself, the CEO agent to help run Facebook and Meta. I mean, could you just like get rid of the bots? Maybe open up the API a little bit so I can bulk post to my groups? I don't know. But right now, what he's really wanting to do with this is create like this advanced internal AI that is designed to help him specifically bypass middle management, rapidly gather the data that he needs, and then streamline his executive decisions. But not like Steven Seagal dying in the movie Executive Decision from 1997. No, this is unfortunately a way worse scenario. But really what it boils down to here is like, this is like peak Silicon Valley hubris. You know what I mean? Like they are, I said restructuring, they're flattening teams, they're laying people off, and Zuckerberg is like pushing its employees to actively build these AI tools, which will, I don't want to say like inevitably replace them, but they are going to become a higher priority within the company. And it will probably see fewer people being hired because you're going to have the AI running those tasks. But that unfortunately also is just part of, the progress, right? Like we all like human interaction, at least for the most part. But still, when you go to Safeway or you go to the store, do you use the self-checkout, or do you go wait in that slow ass line in order to go talk to a human? I don't know about you. Usually I'm in a hurry. So I go to the self-checkout. I prefer self-checkout because then I don't have to interact with anybody, and that's also a big part of just like where we are as a society and like how we've moved away from getting to know people more or less, and how we spend a lot of time kind of isolated and by ourselves and doom scrolling our phones. So yeah, maybe we are all the problem here, I guess, right? But there is a level of irony here that is pretty hilarious, because you've got a CEO of a tech company building an AI version of himself to run the company. And that on its own is just too good to ignore, and that's what I'm saying. Like Mark Zuckerberg probably doesn't really have any real friends, but there's really only kind of like one outcome to this, I think. And that's going to be when the AI CEO starts to look at Meta's quarterly reports, its declining user base, its declining ad sales, its vast expenses over these projects like the metaverse that have died horrible deaths, right? Never mind metagaming when they tried doing that. That didn't last very long either. And it looks at everything, and the AI then decides that the most cost effective and financially efficient business move is to fire Mark Zuckerberg. Now, if that ever happens, I would laugh my ass off because I could imagine a scenario where the AI CEO goes around Mark Zuckerberg, goes to the board of Meta and lays out its evidence and says it is not financially viable to keep this person on the payroll. And then the board, because, and here's the thing you guys have to remember is that, these companies, they only have one responsibility. It's not to the customers, it's always to the shareholders. And if they can maximize their share price by saving money, by eliminating, Mark Zuckerberg from the equation, you bet your ass that they would. And it would be really funny because even then, Mark Zuckerberg's bottom line would probably go up. Like I said, the absolute chaos that would leak out of the Meta boardroom over this kind of stuff would be hilarious and would give Aaron Sorkin enough content to write 20 movies on. And honestly, I'm kinda here for it, to be fair. As much as I like AI, as much as I enjoy all this kind of stuff, I really don't like Mark Zuckerberg. And, I would be very, 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 happy to watch him, walk the corporate plank, so to speak.